Hey everybody, this is Danielle Miller and Angel Sullivan, and we are coming to you with the last webinar in our three-part series of Brand plus Website equals a cohesive business that you love. This was our third in a three-part series that everyone signed up for, and in this particular webinar we're going to talk about putting all the pieces together, the voice and vibe of your brand, and this is also an open Q&A time, so we highly encourage you, if you're in the comment stream, if you have any questions at all about branding, about website design, about how those things work together, particular challenges, hang-ups, things that may be bothering you about any of your brand questions or things about your website, now would be a great time to put those questions out there, and we will get to them, answer them to the best of our ability, and hopefully get you on the right path with your brand and your website. So, hey Angel, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here with you.
Yay! All right, so we are going to talk just a moment. If you are just joining us on this third live stream, webinar, we're going to tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do and how that can help you in your business. So, Angel, why don't you go ahead and start us off and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Angel. I always feel like for anybody that's watched Finding Nemo, when Dory does that thing and the fish thing, she's like, "Hi, I'm Dory." I always feel like I'm doing that. Hi, I'm Angel.
You're an angelfish.
I'm an angelfish. I used to love angelfish. And this angelfish creates clean, spacious, and on-brand websites for solopreneurs. I really have a somewhat new leaning towards minimalism and wabi-sabi principles, both in business and in life. And I'm working on incorporating that into my websites as well. So I'm really excited to start doing that with folks. And I'm very excited to be here on the last one. And I'm hoping to have lots of good questions to answer today.
I actually have some that I have gotten via email and via some other social media places. I put it out there this past week about questions. So I've got some for at the end if everybody that's on the stream is a little bit too shy to ask questions or talk to us. So I've got some ready and available. So I'm Danielle Miller. I am a brand strategist and what I consider a brand nurturer for women, entrepreneurs, and solopreneurs, those in the space who believe that they are their business and how to create a resonant and aligned brand around who they are, what they do, and how they show up. Angel and I met, I guess it'll be 2 years. Right? 2 years?
I was trying to remember. I lose track of time.
Maybe a year and a half. Probably about a year and a half. And Angel created my website for me last year, and it was the first time since 2006-07, I would say, when I had my very first typepad, blog spot, whatever you want to call it, website. In 8 years, it was the first time that I really felt like my website truly represented who I was, what I had to say, and gave off the vibe that I wanted people to know about me when they landed there. So today's webinar, we're going to wrap things up a little bit for you and talk about voice and vibe and personality in your brand, what that exactly looks like for a solopreneur, and we're also going to have a Q&A time to ask questions, and we're also going to tell you about our Rise and Shine offer, which is a very, very special offer for entrepreneurs who are really ready to take their brand and their website to, I don't want to say use the buzzword the next level, but how about a completely new level, a completely resonant and aligned level. So, yeah, right?
A completely you level.
Oh, I love that. A completely you level. That's nice. I dig that. So we've told you a little bit about us. And the first thing we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about your voice. And I want to talk specifically about the intersection between your voice and your language and talking to your right people. Because I think solopreneurs and entrepreneurs get stuck on this piece of it a lot. And Angel, I want you to chime in here and talk about this with me, because what I find happens, and based on work that I've done with clients and my own journey, and I'm sure yours as well, you start out thinking that you have to talk or speak a certain way to your ideal audience. Because we hear that all the time, use their language, use the words that they're saying, and I think we get stuck on how do we use their language but talk in our voice.
Mm-hmm. For sure. In fact, that's something that, well, for the past several years, I think it's something that I've been kind of actively working on, and it's interesting too because I think earlier on, my voice tended to be, it was almost like a particular facet of me was coming out, and then all the rest just kind of faded into the background. So it wasn't really the truth of who I am. It was more kind of the badass, kind of gruff almost, not really gruff, but just kind of very playful, bordering on badass kind of facet of me. But that's not all of me, and I think that a lot of people do that too, especially as we see and hear those that we kind of follow and connect with speaking in certain ways. Mm-hmm. I think we kind of feel as though we have to do the same thing, even if not in exactly the same ways, in similar ways. And I know for me, I really got lost in that for a while, and it's just, I really think it's just within these past several months since the fall that I really just started trying to specifically speak in my blog, on social media, and when I'm talking with clients and whatever I do, just as if I would if you and I were having a chat, like just as if I would if I were talking with a friend. Mm-hmm. And it makes a difference because I think that people connect with me more easily now when I'm able to be, to take the mask off. When I'm able to take the mask off, and when the other person is able to do the same, I think we're able to communicate on an entirely different level.
Yeah, I think that we go through this process of almost trying on
yes.
our voices. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I think there's this journey that we go through in the entrepreneurial online space where, like you said, there are other people that we resonate with, that we really like their voice, and we think that our voice sounds similar to their voice, and we start really listening to what they're saying, we start watching their language, and I think many times we get so caught up in that our voice starts to get muted. Mm-hmm. Because we want to sound like that particular person, mm-hmm. or we want people to think of us like that certain person. And there's plenty of examples out there. I mean, we see that on a daily basis. You look at the big names that are in the online space. You Marie Forleo, Danielle Laporte, who else? Or Ash Ambridge, who drops the F-bomb all the time, and we think that, or Erica Napolitano, Redhead Writing, she's another one that has a very, very strong voice, and we resonate with some of those aspects of their voices, whether it's a spiritual thing, whether it's a badass in your face kind of thing, and we sort of go through this process. We're like, well, I think that sounds like me. I want to start talking like that, mm-hmm. And it doesn't always fit.
No, and actually one of the ways that I have been trying to develop my own voice myself lately is really taking the things that matter to me personally. Like, I have a thing for American Pit Bull Terriers, and a lot of people are really turned off by them, and you know, some of the not true stories that go out around that, you know, about that whole thing, and just care for the environment and for animals in general, you know. So I've been trying to kind of slowly start talking about these things because these are things that really fire me up. And the same thing goes with like the minimalism. You and I have talked about that a little bit lately on the Wabi Sabi, and just really trying to kind of integrate that into the way that not only the way that I do things, but the way that I speak, the way that I interact with people, the way that I do my life, the way that I do my business, like across the board, everything. And again, I mean, I think that there's some serious power in that, because when you're able to do that, it's coming from that place of power inside, and it's not fake. You know, if someone will sit and talk with me for 5 minutes about some of the stereotypes around pit bulls, they're going to know my passion is not fake. It's real. It's complete. It's, you know, and so that all comes out about all of these things. And so when you do that, I think the need for, or the feeling of I must do X, Y, Z, like I think that stuff just drops away. There's no space for it anymore when your passion comes out and up.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think when you can identify the things that really interest you, that really hold your attention, and the things that you really want to talk about with people, that you really want to get involved in a conversation with them about, I think that starts to work its way up to the surface as you go through this process of really honing in on your voice. I mean, and there's a lot of talk about, well, you can't define your voice, you can't, you know, you don't create your voice. I think that is a misconception. It's a misnomer, because we're inundated with all of this information on a daily basis and all these voices coming at us. And the internal struggle that we have as well around who we are, what we want to say, and how we want to say it to our ideal audience, to our right people. So I think there is a huge level of discernment that you have to figure out for yourself and your voice. And I think that you also have to realize that it's a journey, and it is an evolutionary process that you go through as you hone your voice and as you sort of find that alignment for who you are and what you want to say. And it doesn't, I mean, it's, you know, like I said, you know, you and I have been doing this for quite some time now, and I find that I still discover layers of my voice that I want to have heard, and that I want to bring to the forefront. And I think that a lot of times, especially for women entrepreneurs, we get stuck into these round holes that we're put into, and then we think we can't go out of that.
Right. When the fact of the matter is that we're never going to be stuck in any one place. I mean, unless we choose to be, but we're constantly growing, we're constantly evolving, we're constantly developing new and somewhat hidden aspects of ourselves, so we've got to be flexible with all of that. But I think, to speak to your point just a minute ago, I think that by working with someone like you who does this particular brand work, having that foundation and then doing it, you know, getting out there, talking, writing, interacting, communicating, and all the different ways that you can, that's how that develops. Like, you sit back into it with the work that you do with a client, right? The client would kind of sit back into the truth of all of that. But then I think that it's almost like a wine matures, right? It's like over time, and given the right actions and activities, it becomes more natural, and it becomes more fluid, and it becomes more powerful, I think.
Yeah. The wine's allowed to breathe.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, you use that analogy. And I think that lost my train of thought about what I wanted to say about that too. Dang, menopause kicking in. That's what happens when you turn 50. That's what happens when you turn 50.
Oh, no. Just in a fun.
But oh, I know. I remember what it was. That's where diving into archetypes can really help you as well, because it's very language. Archetypes are very language oriented, and so when you figure out, when you learn about your leading archetype, or where a particular archetype is at this point in time in your life, it can really help you in honing in on the language that you want to use. So for you as a sage archetype, you're constantly in that teacher mode, where you are disseminating information for people, where you are taking what you've learned and putting it into your own language that resonates with your right people, so they can learn from you. And I think that's a big piece of the archetypal framework that can be so helpful in helping you figure out your language, and how you want to talk to your right people. And I think going off of that, there's another piece of this as well with voice, around developing, I don't want to say signature things, but things that you're known for. You think about my girl Mia Voss. Hi, Mia, out there. She has Backcrap Crazy, the Backcrap Crazy crew, with her show, and that's become a lexicon of her language that she uses. Another good friend of mine out there, Andy Lyons, she uses Andylicious in her language and talking with her people. Again, it's something that defines you and helps you differentiate yourself from everybody else out there. So whenever you can kind of find those little things that set you apart, and incorporate them into your language, it's always going to benefit you in helping your voice stand out.
Yeah, cool.
Yay! Who else was I talking about? Oh, I know. Who else? Oh, Danielle Laporte. She has that very distinct language that she uses with her people. You know her voice out of the other personal development people that are out there, the self-help people. She has a very distinct language that she uses, that she's honed over the years that she has been in that space. And so I think it's again incredibly important, as you start to think about your own voice, is looking at the language that you use and how you want to amplify that or emphasize it in your presence online. And that's something that you and I both work on. You are a great copywriter. I mean, I know you don't do that. That's not your area of expertise, but you've written every word on your website, correct?
I have, yeah. I keep tweaking and rewriting it, actually, because again, as things kind of shift and change, I want to keep up with that, but also as I become more comfortable with my voice and with what I want to say and with the people I want to speak to specifically, yeah, the copy shifts and changes. But then I wanted to say quickly, too, especially as it related to Danielle, but really as it relates to all of us, is I think the language is a key part of, and of course with the colors and with the layout and all of these other aspects of the design, but the language, I think, is a really key aspect of getting across the feelings that you want to get across to your people when they land on your website or when they interact with you in any way, really, because I think there's something about Danielle that, and it goes beyond her language. I always have this sense of, it's like a deep power, a clarity, and there's just like this whole underlying calm. It's like an underground river or something. That's what I think of when I think of her. She's like this underground river. She's kind of hidden, but kind of not. Mm-hmm. And just very kind of solid and steady and powerful. And again, I think a lot of that does come from her language. I think a lot of it, too, comes from her imagery, from her site tends to be very spacious. The things that she does are lots of white space, very clean. Mm-hmm. So those are all aspects, too, that I think really kind of feed into the same thing.
Right, and that leads us absolutely into the next thing that I want to talk about, which is, the whole other piece of this, which is, ta-da, let me get this up here. Okay, the next piece of this is your vibe. I love this lady.
I love that.
I love her. She's so awesome. Um, and that was a perfect segue into talking about the vibe that you want to put out there, that you want your right people to feel when they land on your website, when they engage with you on social media, and kind of not only the very wonderful things about that, but also a couple pitfalls to be wary of. And what I mean by that, let me use a really clear example here. I don't know, probably most of you have heard of Mari Smith. If you don't know Mari, Mari's very big in the social media. Facebook, she's been called the Pied Piper of Facebook. And I met Mari back in 2008, I think it was. We were both in a mastermind together. And if you have known Mari that long, you know that her signature color was turquoise. Everything was turquoise. That's how she was. She was known by that signature color. But now, if you look up Mari on her website or on Facebook or Twitter or any of those other places where you can find her, there's no more turquoise. She's gotten away from that. And I think that as you start really leaning into the vibe of who you are, you have to be careful about attaching yourself to things that you're going to outgrow. And I say that because it can be a very abrupt thing when you're known for a certain thing for so many years, and then all of a sudden that goes away, and people are like, hey, wait a minute, what just happened here? Wait a minute. She wore turquoise all the time. Now she's not wearing it anymore. What's going on? Now Mari transitioned that very well. She did a good job with evolving her brand and moving past that. But you can see sometimes, there's a lot of brand strategy out there that suggests that you need to have a signature color, or you need to have something that sets you apart. And I would suggest that you look a little bit deeper inside of your brand rather than looking to sort of those external things to help you stand out, because you will grow, you will evolve, you will change. And it's not quite so easy to shed those things as you move along in your brand journey. So do you have any examples of that, Angel?
Well, I'm just kind of laughing because I realized as I looked at my what I'm wearing today, this is like my color. And I didn't even realize it when I was getting dressed. I was just like, oh, that looks good today. That'll feel good. But this is like my thing.
But the same thing. That's who you are, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't. Yeah. And I think we can go back to the example of Danielle Laporte. You're probably not ever going to see her in a bright pink tank top.
Yeah. Well, and then the other thing I wanted to say is, I think, to go back to, if we don't rely so much on specific outward things like a color or a particular font or whatever, because God only knows how many times I've changed my font for my branding. way too many. But I think if we can kind of use the things like feelings and kind of desired states of mind, both for you as the entrepreneur and for your perfect people. Mm-hmm. I think those can kind of be your true north, right? Like your North Star.
Yeah.
So that it's not so much about a particular element per se. It's more about a particular feeling or a particular state of mind. And so those, if those are your North Star, the way that manifests can kind of shift and grow, but the underlying truth of it is never going to change.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yes. You said that absolutely perfectly. Because really, underneath the branding framework is you're thinking about not only not only how you want your right people to feel, but also how do you want to feel in the work that you're doing. And so when you can marry those things together in a cohesive way, it makes so much more sense, you know. And like you said again, you know, Danielle Laporte has a very distinct vibe. You know, she wears a lot of earth tone, you know, a lot of black, a lot of white. You know, you probably are never going to see her, like I said, wearing something that's bright pink or turquoise or, you know, any of that kind of thing. It's just not who she is. But she's already figured out who she is and how she wants to show up. So that, for her, her evolutionary process is probably going to look a little different because she's already got a lot of it down. So, and she knows, she's very firm in who she is and how she shows up. But I find that a lot of times in talking with potential clients and actual clients, that they get very hung up on the fact that, well, I have to have a signature, like I have to have a color, I have to have, you know, something that, you know, when people see it, they'll think of me. And you know, that's one of the paradigms I'm out to really shift for people, because it's not really about that. It's really getting down underneath and thinking about, you know, really grounding yourself in who you are and how you want to feel and how you want your right people to feel.
Yeah. And this whole thing of, I mean, obviously, I would say that there's a place for having help. There's a place for receiving feedback from someone who maybe has more direct experience in a given area than you do. Obviously, I think that. And I think I'm finding so many people reaching out to me lately, and always really, who are very kind of almost hung up on the idea of, well, so-and-so says that I must do X, Y, and Z, and so I have to do X, Y, and Z, and I have to do it this way, and I have to do it in this time frame. And my God, my head just sometimes goes, I can't even hear it anymore, because it's like, wait a minute, where are you in that? Where is your truth in that? You know, and then again, I think if we're really going back to using the things that are, I need to settle down because I'm getting.
She's getting up on her platform. Everybody, look out!
But it is that. It's like, go back to the truth of you. Go back to, like we talked about earlier, the things that you're really truly passionate about. Go back to the feelings that you want to experience on a daily basis. The feelings that you want your perfect people to feel when they interact with you. Go back to those things, and then from those things, if there are steps that need to be taken to get you from where you are to where you want to be, fine, by all means. But not to do it from what someone else said and their way, you know?
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's, you know, that's a thing that I think in the process, that in the framework that we've come up with, is we don't ever let you forget who you are and how you want to show up. Because you drive this. You are the expert of you, always and forever and ever. Amen. My role is simply to help you uncover more of who you are, to help you embrace some of those things that maybe you thought weren't so great, or that weren't really the things that make you so wonderful. You know, that's really what branding is about. That's really where it gets exciting, is when you can start to put all the shoulds in a closet and shut the door, and then start really looking into who you are and how you want to be and how you want to show up. And that's what I think our framework is about, and why we're different from every other methodology, you know, that's out there, because you are in the equation constantly. You are in the process constantly, and it really is all about you.
And one of the things that I say on my my new website, which is hopefully coming out later today, crossing fingers.
Ooh,
I'm just waiting for replication. Hopefully it's getting out on the internet. But one of the things I say is that when I work with someone, I only want to work with people who truly recognize that the only expert here is your inner wise self. Period. Period. I will never, ever, and Danielle will never, ever, we won't put ourselves above you as the expert in this situation, because that's not the truth of it.
Right.
So, yeah. And then I loved what you said about taking all the shoulds and putting them into the closet, and how when you're able to do that, that's when things get exciting, because that's what's happening with me now. It's like I'm not listening to all those old voices that have been in my head for years anymore. I'm not listening to that stuff. Like, it's, okay, thanks. Thanks for that information. I don't need it anymore. And I'm listening to what's in here, and I am getting excited, and I am finding that things flow in a way that they don't when you're wearing a mask or when you're trying to push things. It's like there's just this like easy flow to things that's just not there otherwise, and that's really what we want to pull out and then help you kind of digitally visualize and manifest with your website.
Right, exactly. And I think that, I have to kind of chuckle a little bit because I was there too, and I totally get it. When you start out, you're figuring out how do I bootstrap this thing? How do I DIY this thing to get it up and running? And I think that there is not or how do I say this? You don't know what you don't know. The importance of taking the time to figure out, to have somebody guide you into the place that you want to be, in who you are and how you show up, and how you want to have your right people come to you. And your website is so important, and it's only becoming more and more important as time goes on, because this is really the first way that people, they hear of you, they see you, they get a first impression of you. And that, I think that's another thing that we forget in the online space anymore, that old saying that you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And it's true. I mean, we live in that, especially on the internet, where you're judged for everything now. It doesn't matter what you do, you're going to be judged in some way, shape, or form, good or bad. And that first impression is so critical.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, just a quick little story. We, just over the past 2 weeks, have been looking for painters, because it's been, 8 years or something, 7 or 8 years since we painted the outside of the house, and it's starting to look it. So, and summer's coming up, and I'm in Florida, and once it hits like 80, I stay in the air conditioning. I can't tolerate it. So.
I would kill for that right now.
Oh my goodness. So I told my husband, I was like, it's getting too late. We should have done this in the winter time. We need to have somebody come out and do it. So I started looking for some people that would do it, and I got some quotes from several different people. Now, of course, being a website designer and developer, what's the first thing I do when I'm checking out anybody? Anybody, from the kid's doctor to the painter to a coach, anybody. So I checked out their websites. The first 2 that I checked out, I was just like, okay, nothing to write home about. Hard to find my way around, hard to find the information that I wanted specifically, which, hello, make it easy for your people to find the information that they need to work with you. And then the one saving grace on one of those 2 was that they had spectacular testimonials, tons of them, all over. So I was like, all right, well, we'll see. But so they already had 1 strike against them each. And then the third one, I got to it, and I was just like, wow, I mean, it wasn't like overly slick and glossy, which turns me off. but it was very clean and it was very well put together. I could easily find what I wanted immediately without click, 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 click. And so when I got the proposal from them, I was already automatically leaning towards them. So there's something about, I mean, take every opportunity that you have, and like you were saying, your website is such an important aspect of who you are and what you do. Use it to your best advantage. Now, these guys came out. They were not the highest bid. They were not the lowest bid. They were right in the middle. But they were super professional. He spoke to me as if, you know, I were a real human being and not just some little woman. And I mean, like, everything was just perfect, but I may not have been so open to that had I not been so impressed with the website to start. You know what I mean? It was like it already gave them a leg up. So, you know, I don't care what anybody tells you, especially as we continue to move forward into things and as things continue to develop, your website is vital. It is.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, and Lynn Hawkins, Lynn said, you know, you don't need to force what is meant to be and put those shoulds in the closet so you can be who you were meant to be. Right? There's this whole element of that force around, you know, around digging into who you are and how you show up, and it doesn't have to be that way. It does not have to be that way. And you know, we talked about this in the previous webinars, you know, some of those things like, you know, putting on your about page, we do X, Y, and Z when it's you are wearing all the hats. There's nothing wrong with that. That's totally okay. Own that. Own the fact that you can provide that really intimate, one-of-a-kind customer experience for somebody, and that they know that you're not going to pass them off to, you know, 3 different people on your team. That says a lot. That's an extremely valuable thing that you're discounting there when you say we are, you know, a full-service agency, whatever. Particularly for the solopreneur, you know, micro business. That's why people come to you. They want that customer experience. They want that brand experience that you can provide for them, and your website better darn show that to them, because that's how you will get clients, and that's how you will get rave reviews, and that's how you will get those amazing testimonials, is when there's this very beautiful progression that people go through to work with you.
Mm-hmm. And your website can easily show that, again, when you've got the branding all kind of in place and you've taken the steps and you've put it into action and you've done the talking and you've gotten used to allowing that. And I love how Lynn reiterated that, because there is no need for force when you kind of let the other stuff just drop away. Like, it's not even a matter of, it's not even trying, right? Like, it's not even a thing about trying or the pushing and none of this other stuff. It's just a matter of you just drop the stuff that's coming in, let it fall away, and your truth comes out. I mean, it's like magic, you know?
It is. It is very much like magic, like alchemy.
Yeah, like alchemy. And in fact, I think it's more exhausting, and it takes more effort and more. It's like holding a beach ball down when you're trying to kind of hold your truth back so that you can hear everybody else's message and take that in and then put it back out again. It's like, so you're putting all of this energy into holding your truth down, into hearing what everyone else is saying, and for God's sake, how many voices are there? You know, how many can you take in a given time period? And then to kind of let that do its thing inside of you, and then to work its way back out. So you've got like this triple whammy thing going on. When you drop that, not only are you taking away all of that effort and all of that push, but then you're also gaining your natural power and just letting it out. Like, that's it.
Yep.
I love that. I'm so glad you said that, Lynn.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's awesome. Yes, so I want to talk a little bit about some of the ways that you can, I want to give you some tips, some strategies to think about in terms of honing in on your voice and vibe. And you can call this whatever, you can call this, I have a book coming out next week, and in the book, yay, I call it using your verb du jour. So you can talk about this as refining your voice and vibe. You can talk about it as defining your voice and vibe. You can talk about it as discovering your voice and vibe. You can talk, whatever verb you want to use around this. But I suggest the first thing that you do is really, and we've gone over some of these other things about who are the people that you want to talk to in the previous webinars. Involve your five senses. And not only to do this for yourself, but it will also help you define how you want your right people to feel. And so what I mean by that is start really thinking in terms of what are the smells that make you feel really good? What are the sounds, the music that you like to listen to that puts you in your zone, your flow? Think about tastes that really speak to you. I feel a lot better when I have this in my hand, and I feel, energetic. I feel like I'm ready to go. I feel, in flow. So, start thinking about those things. Think about textures, and that's one of the things that I talk about, with people, with clients when they start thinking about their website, because texture is really an important thing to evoke feeling. So, do you want when you think about your experience, your brand experience, is it like velvet, or is it like a soft worn t-shirt? Does it smell like fresh cut grass, or does it smell like cinnamon and vanilla? Does it, when you start really involving your five senses into the brand experience, you will be amazed at how much clarity you get. Because once you start thinking about those things, the feelings start to come. So you start to think about, oh, this is how I want to feel, and this is how I want my ideal audience to feel when they land on my website. So, that's a great way that you can start really honing in on the vibe that you want people to have when they interact with you, what you want to leave behind after a client experience. Again, here, see, I'm jumping on my platform now because I think that is so much fun.
It is so much fun. I love it. And in fact, I just wanted to point out to everybody that if you're digging what Danielle's talking about, make sure you check the email that we're going to send out a little bit later, because she's got a spectacular follow-up Word document. I'm actually going to convert it to a PDF for everybody with all of these exercises and ideas, and it goes into a little bit more depth. It's so good. I'm actually going to print it up and do it myself.
Yeah, because not only is this a great exercise in defining your ideal audience, but you can also use these things as your own brand touchstones. So, those are the things that when you ground yourself in those type of things, you feel in flow, you feel engaged, you feel connected to the work that you're doing. And it's amazing how much that will make a difference in how you connect with people and how you engage with people when you sort of keep all of these things close to you. One of my biggest, most powerful visual images is that side. It's this side. There it is. There he is. That little boy back there who is my grandson. I think about the experiences that I want to give him, and I think about the joy that he brings to my life, and I can't help but feel good. I can't help but be engaged and be connected to the things that I'm doing because he's such an important part of my life. I have, like I said again, I always have generally my afternoon cup of joe so that I feel energetic. Sometimes if I'm feeling stuck, I pick up the guitar behind me and just strum a few chords just to kind of to put myself back into the flow of what I'm doing. Those things, those brand touchstones are so important. They're so important to involve all your five senses. And Pinterest is a great way to do that. So Angel, talk a little bit about Pinterest.
I love Pinterest. It's my rabbit hole. But you know what? What I do is I've got got 2 or 3 boards that it's the same thing for me. Like that's my afternoon cup of joe is going to Pinterest. I have 2 or 3 boards that when I'm just kind of feeling like, I'm tired and I've done a lot already and I've really just, been working my brain and I'm ready for a break or whatever, that's where I go to fill up. I've curated these boards specifically for that purpose, so I can go to those boards and I can just like cruise through them and take in kind of the overall feeling of it, but then also take in specific images and the feelings that those images evoke from me. And what that does is like, it's like it gives me my second wind, truly, it's I have different ways I think of it and different things I call it, but like it's my beauty fill up, and beauty is one of my core values. Like that's what feeds me. And so when I kind of run out of that after I've been in the office all day and it's dark, there's no windows in here, like I have my little fairy lights up and that helps, but after you've been in a certain environment for a certain amount of time, I think you just kind of, you start to kind of slow down and get a little tired and whatever, and that's my way of filling up on beauty if I can't get up and do something else to do that filling for me. So it's a lifeline for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so important to help you stay plugged in and connected, and it's a great way to really start honing in on the vibe that you want to have, whether that is a spiritual vibe, whether that's a down-to-earth vibe, whether that's a funny vibe, maybe you're snarky and you've really put a lid on that because you're afraid of offending people. If that's who you are, own it. I have a very good friend of mine that sort of kept that below the surface for a long time because she was afraid she was a little bit too snarky, a little bit too sharp. It's who she is. It's who she is, and people appreciate her honest, authentic voice because she totally owns it now. That's not right for everyone. And again, don't be something that you're not. If you're not, if you're not comfortable cursing or using off salty language, don't do it. There's that level of discernment that you find, and it's not to say that in your personal life you don't use it. It's just that boundary that you set for yourself in your brand, in the way that you want to be seen and how you want to come across, and you continually will massage that and hone in on that.
Yeah.
So we're almost at we're a little past quarter of. So I want to get to a couple questions that I had gotten via email, and this is one that probably we could talk about all day because it's and I'm not sure really what your answer is to this, Angel, so I'm anxious to hear what you have to say about this. So the first question that I have is, do you recommend using your own name or having a company name on your website?
Do you want to go first, or do you want me to?
Do you want me to go first, or do you want to?
I definitely have my own strong opinion on it, but it's up to you either way.
You go first. I'll let you go because I'm the brand. People ask me this all the time, so.
Okay, so I just had a conversation with someone about this yesterday, actually. So the thing is, I started off when I had my very first website years ago. It was called An Experiment in Gratitude. I think I said that once before. And I didn't know anything about anything. All I knew is that I wanted a website. I wanted to talk about living a grateful life. I wanted to talk about, being uplifting and being inspirational and this, that, and the other. And that was great while it lasted. And then as it shifted, and as I shifted, as my message shifted, as what I was doing shifted, it became obsolete. I couldn't use that domain name anymore. And so with that, because I'd set up the email addresses to go with the domain, and I'd set up all of my accounts with that email address, and so it became like this domino effect of, crap, what all do I have to change now? And I spent like literally a year watching everything that was coming in and changing everything over. I think I ended up doing this. Oh yeah, then I went to My Mosaic Life. Yeah, I didn't learn my lesson the first time. It took me a good 4 websites before I finally said, oh, maybe I should use my name. And actually, it wasn't even me that came up with it. It was my mentor at the time that suggested it. So thanks for that. But yeah, it was, and then as I did it, because I was hiding, right? Like that's the truth of it. Underneath everything is I was hiding. I didn't want to be known by my name. I didn't want. Now, granted, I grew up with an ER nurse for a mom and a cop for a dad, and so I may be a little more paranoid than your average bear. So that's true too. But I finally realized, like, if I'm not willing to be out there as who I am, why should anyone be willing to be following me or connected with me or whatever? Which is not to say that not using your own name is a bad thing. What I do want to say, what I do want to point out is that, again, as we've talked about already, you're going to shift, you're going to change, especially if you're just starting out. So to save yourself some trouble, if your name is available as a domain name, I do recommend at least purchasing it and holding it. Even if you don't use it right away, just have it available so that you can. And then as soon as you are comfortable with using it, use it, because then it can shift and grow with you. You're always going to be, you are always your brand. You're always your business. You know, these things are kind of interchangeable as far as I'm concerned. So no matter what you're doing, that's going to be able to grow and shift with you. So yeah, that's my take.
Very good. Awesome. So I'm going to say it depends. There's no, it depends on you. There's no complete right or wrong answer. First of all, yes, you absolutely must have some variation of your name. I tell, that's my philosophy around branding. That's what I believe, because I believe that we do business with people first. We want to know who is behind the curtain. We want to know why their business is, why they founded it. What, you know, we want to know people. So I'm always an advocate for having some form of your name. Like you said, I know it's hard in today's, you know, website-driven world, sometimes being able to get that. I work a lot of times with clients on figuring out creative ways that you can get your name in some variation. Because here's the thing, you are who you are. And you're going to grow, and probably the whole reason that you started your business was to be able to adapt, to change, to grow, to be flexible, to be nimble, to be all of those things. And so I believe that your name is the umbrella under which everything falls. So you can have a business, you can have a company, you can have a business. I have Danielle M. Miller International, but I don't have a website that's Danielle M. Miller International. It's me. I will have another one around a branding concept that I'm working with, but it's still me. I'm still the person that is in front of all of that. So I am always an advocate for having your name. Now, that being said, I want to go back to something that you said, Angel, which was about being ready to be seen. Some entrepreneurs prefer to be somewhat hidden. They prefer to have that parameter or boundary where they would rather have the business do the talking rather than themselves. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But you have to figure out what is the best course of action for you. I have a client that I worked with, and she actually, her business was named Mosaic. Was it Mosaic Bookkeeping? I'm not sure. I don't remember, because it's been a couple of years now since she had that. But her idea was around the whole idea of your business being all these pieces and being able to put these pieces together in a beautiful mosaic but didn't represent who she was. And so I really gently prodded her and nudged her to, come out a little bit more. And now her business is called the E-Anthem. And that was really the foundation of what she believes about having a successful business, is that freedom and flow, and that really called to her. So that's what she built her website around, and that works for her because she has a team that works in her. She's an online business manager, and so a lot of to get to her. There are a few gatekeepers to go through. But that's how she wanted it. That's how she wanted to structure her business. And that's fine. That's perfectly okay. You just have to be very clear. But I will say that typically solopreneurs go through a lot of brand iterations. And so if you can use your name, it's much easier to be nimble and flexible and adaptable around that, rather than having a business off some life coaching, and then all of a sudden now you're gonna write a book and you want to do more speaking, and you kind of get lost in that. So that's my very long answer around that question.
I love that, and I just wanted to reiterate one of your points too, which I think is important, is to not just choose one way or the other, to not just choose to use your name, and not just choose to use a business name or a company name by default, but to actually think through the reasons for doing it one way or the other, and then go with it. Like, if whichever way you're going to go,
commit.
Know your reasons, know your why, and then go with it. Rock it.
Yep, yeah. Exactly. Commit to it. Own it 100%. Just own it. So yeah, and and again, we can use all kinds of examples. Martha Stewart is not known by Omni Living Media. She's known by Martha Stewart. Richard Branson is not really known by Virgin. He's known as Richard Branson. You can come up with example after example after example around that. But ultimately, you get to decide. You're the one that started the business. You're the one that wanted to do this. So you're in control. You're in the driver's seat. And you get to figure out what you want your level of visibility to be. Because going back to your other point about your mom being an ER doc and or a nurse, and your dad being a cop, that's a very real thing right now.
Yeah.
In the online space is the vulnerability of putting yourself out there, particularly for women.
Yeah.
And so you have to decide what that looks like for you, and that's the great thing about going through the branding framework, is because we help you do that. We help you figure that out. So that question always takes longer than I think it's going to, because I think it's not a cut and dried answer. It's not an easy yes or no answer. And there's really, in the branding framework, there are not a lot of clear-cut yes and no answers, because it's really about you, and you're an individual, and what you want, and what you feel is best for your success. And that's not any cookie cutter formula that you can just put somebody into.
Yeah.
Right? So there you go. So that is, that's really another reason that Angel and I came up with this Rise and Shine offer, is because this work is so individualized, because there isn't a press and play plug-in for your business and for your website and for your brand. It's all done through a deep dive into who you are, the work that you want to do, the people you want to talk to, and how you want to show up. Is Lexi back there?
You can hear her snoring.
We both have our dogs in the office. Yes, I'm surprised you didn't hear her snoring either, because she's a pretty good snorer too, no doubt. So I want to talk a little bit about the Rise and Shine offer, Angel, before we sign off today, because we are almost at the top of the hour. And why we decided this was such an important thing to do, and how that can really help a solopreneur really stand out the way they want to, and show up the way that they want to. So this offer that Angel and I have put together is called Rise and Shine, and we feel it very aptly describes the work that we do with clients, which is helping you really show up in a way that feels good to you. and having your website represent who you are in a way that you love, that you go to your website and you just want to stare at it all day because it's so gorgeous, which is what I did after Angel did mine. So, because it was so pretty. But we want this experience to help you figure out your uniqueness, your distinctiveness, what makes you you, what makes you utterly irresistible to your right people. And that's really what great branding does for you. And so with this, we dive into your brand story. We look at the values that you want to show up with each and every day. We look at the vibe and personality and voice of your brand, like we talked about today. We do an in-depth client analysis where we look at who are those right people, what are their characteristics, how do they talk, and how can your language resonate with the language that they use, not mimicking or imitating, but how does it fit together and how does it flow really cohesively. And so we look at all of those pieces, and then we look at how that translates to a website. So Angel, I'm going to let you talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that's when, this is all fun as far as I'm concerned, because the work that Danielle does with everybody, that stuff is just, it's like play. It's not all play. There's some effort that needs to be put in, but there's a lot of fun playtime, I think, that's involved with that. But then, so you have that, and you have this, like, book of information then that we can take and vision how to incorporate all those pieces of you into a website that visually manifests you. Like, that's my whole thing. When I work with someone, the greatest compliment that I can get, and I've gotten it several times, and I'm very excited every time, is my website looks and feels like me. Like, that's the feedback that people tend to get from other people when we're done is, wow, it really feels like you. And that's the point. We want it to look and feel like you. So basically we're going to just start from scratch, go through the entire process. That includes a year's worth of hosting with one of the best rated hosting companies out there. They do WordPress specifically, which is what I work with, and super fast access to them, spectacular support. And again, the whole support thing, you'll notice as we've talked about it throughout these past 3 webinars, the support thing is a really big aspect for us in this entire process. We want you to feel really supported and cared for and nurtured, and we don't want it to feel like this heavy, dull, boring or stressful thing. We want it to feel fun and, like
exciting.
Friends, yeah, exciting, and again, that whole thing that we were talking about earlier with, we want you to get to the point where you are really accessing your power and your truth, and then just letting that out, because it's like turning the faucet on. You almost can't stop it then, like in the best possible way. So we will do that with your website, and basically what I do is I build the website live. You have access to it from the time I start until the time I call it your final walkthrough, just like if you're walking through an apartment or a house or something before you sign the papers, it's the same thing. And the entire time, I just really ask for kind and direct feedback through the entire process, so that by the time we're done, it is you. It is a visual representation of you, because we've taken all those pieces that you and Danielle did together, and then we've manifested them into this digital presence. So, yeah.
And the other really cool piece about this is moving forward, you have a foundation now. So whatever your next brand iteration looks like, you will have the framework, you will have the foundation in order to put that together cohesively. It's a natural evolutionary flow that will happen for you now that you've taken the time to do the work, the play around around all of this. You'll have the tools, you'll have the strategies to take forward. You'll have this this beautiful brand compass, this brief it's not really very brief. I call it a brief, but it's really it's pretty hefty. You know, that you will be able to take with you to anybody when you hire members on your team, when you are looking to work with other individuals in a collaborative way. You'll have your brand to show them and say, this is who I am, this is what I'm about. You know, are we a good fit? Because that's really, in the end, what you want to know about your brand. Is it a good fit for your right people? Is it a good fit for collaborative partners? Does it fit you? And so that's really what we talk about in this whole process, in this whole framework. You know, and there's a ton more. There's a ton more stuff that we do with this offer. Let me see here. Let me just go to here. Yay. Okay, there we go. So, you know, you can learn more about what exactly this looks like. That's Angel's website there. If you go to mine, the page is exactly the same. So there's nothing different. It looks the same. Because this is such an individualized process, we don't do an application. I don't like using that. You have to apply. It's a conversation between the three of us to see if we're all a good fit for each other and what that work would look like for all of us. So we are very excited to offer to two people a special trailblazer, what we call a trailblazer discount, because this work is new for us, even though we've been doing it separately for so long. This is our first collaborative effort together. So we want to have two pioneers to do this work with us. And you can find about all of that on the slide that I just showed you, and that'll be on the replay, so you'll see it as well. You can also go to angelsullivan.com or daniellemiller.com, and you can learn more about it there. But I think it's going to be so much fun. We want you to love your online home. We want you to love your brand of who you are and how you show up, and we can help you get there.
And I just want to say two quick things, if I could.
Yes, you do. Whatever you need to do.
So the first thing is I just wanted to clarify that we will only be taking up to 4 people for this offer per year.
Yeah.
Because it is so in-depth, and it does take a good bit of energy from each of us, and then from the third person as well. Mm-hmm. So it's not just a
good point.
Hey, hi, how you doing? Turn around and you're gone thing. It's really, you know, we're going to be with you for a while. You're going to be with us for a while. So only up to 4 of those per year. And then what was the second thing? Oh, the second thing was we've put a lot of focus on the website. And for good reason. We've talked about how important your website is, but it's not just about your website. Like, this work that you'll do with Danielle it's really going to feed everything else that you're doing, right? Like I said, this is what you can take as your North Star when you're having a sales conversation with a potential client. You can take the same information when you're interacting with people on social media, when you're sending out a newsletter, when you're writing blog posts, when you're doing whatever. Like, if you do a webinar, when you're doing that and bringing all of this and all of you into each of these aspects of things that you're doing for your business. So it is about the website a lot, but the work that you're going to do with Danielle and what you'll walk away with is going to feed a lot more than just that. Like, you can use this with everything forever from here on out. So,
right.
Yeah.
And you brought up a really good point that I wanted to reinforce as well, is, you know, that we don't just do this work and then drop you off and say, go, bye, have a good time with your website, see ya. We're with you in the follow-up process as well, because we recognize that there's a lot to figure out. There's a lot of things that you might have questions on once your brand has really been solidified and your website's up and it looks beautiful. You know, you might have a question about something that you want to do, and you're not sure if it's on brand, or maybe there's languaging that you're not quite sure about. Maybe your website has a couple of hiccups, or you need just some clarification on something. So 3 months after we hand your website off to you and your brand brief, you're still in our loop. You know, we'll still follow up with you, and we'll still, you know, schedule calls with you to help you get clarity around things. You know, that's, again, very, very important to us, that we want you to feel cared for and nurtured. And so that's part of this whole Rise and Shine experience as well. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah? Okay. Alrighty, so we are past the top of the hour, and I want to just wrap it up by saying, Angel, it was so much fun to do this with you. It was our first collaborative little get-together here, and I'm looking forward to many more of them because it was a lot of fun to do, and I think we have a lot more to share with people and talk about. So, not to mention, you know, the whole wabi-sabi thing we're going to be looking at a little bit more in depth as well. So if you have any questions, Angel, where can people find you?
AngelSullivan.com, or if you want to email me directly, it's Angel, ANGEL, at AngelSullivan.com.
Yep. And you're on Facebook pretty regularly. Is that that's under your name, right?
Yeah, and then Angel Sullivan websites as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, yeah, and you can find me at DanielleMMiller.com. You can email me at Danielle@DanielleMMiller.com on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Instagram, all that stuff. I'm out there, and I'm all at Danielle M. Miller. So you will find me everywhere. I tend to be somewhere all over social media because it's fun, and I like it. And I'm an introvert, so believe it or not. So anyway, thank you so much for sharing the time with us today. We hope that you got some great information and that you can move forward with getting your brand on track and getting solidified and who you are and how you show up. So we are looking forward to working with you. We're looking forward to hearing from you. Please hit us up with any questions you have. If you want to have a conversation with us, we'd love to talk with you.
Yep, sounds good.
All right, everybody. Happy Wednesday. I'm gonna go get ready for snow. Dang it. We have a foot of snow coming tomorrow.
Oh, I won't tell you what our weather is.
Please don't. This too shall pass. Things I've learned at 50, this too shall pass.
Yeah.
All right, girlfriend. Have a great day.
Yeah, thanks, you guys.
All right, see ya.